Hello, been going on YouTube as usual and getting a bit bored of what I tend to be finding these days. It's the same old thing, um, even though I'm a fan of some of the people on it. Two of the people who come up again, as they have done over the last couple of years, are Emma Watson, the actress, and David Icke. Rather different people, personalities, but they have a thing in common which, to be honest with you, I would say is malignant narcissism. Of course, in agreement with a lot of people who've said this before, narcissists tend to be, people in Hollywood tend to be left-wing, and, well, the actors left-wing and narcissists tend to go together, don't they? The lifestyle they lead tends to be compulsive in habits. If they weren't that way to begin with, they'd probably end up being that way, but it favours them even more to feel normal in that environment, or to try to feel normal. With compulsive habits, addictions, if you like. There are people who say addictions don't exist, like Peter Hitchens. But something's going on in the brain, I don't know what it is. You can or you can't call that an addiction. Look at my family members, a lot of them tend to have addictions, and certain people I've worked with. I had a boss who was in the local paper who actually, I knew he liked fruit machines, but I knew he could be quite a nasty person from time to time, thoughtless. But he overestimated himself so much that he stole scratch cards and got caught on camera. So he's not going to be manager for much longer, unless they're very lenient on him, and I don't think they should be. But that's just it. We let people make their mistakes and they destroy themselves. They'll take you with them if they can, or they don't give you a very nice time along the way. And this is all to do with how people were brought up. I'll get back to what I was saying. David Icke. Emma Watson, actually, I'll go back to Emma Watson. Emma Watson reminds me of my cousin a little bit. Everything she does and says, the way she says it, I know she's an actor, but it's all very impressionable and theatrical. But you can tell she's just patting herself on the back every moment. It's so vacuous and meaningless, and she's just rewarding herself and looking charming all the time. And when she was complaining that people called her bossy when she was 9 years old for trying to direct plays. And when you think about the sort of language kids usually use, bossy isn't really the most severe word, is it, in the lexicon? And they're the people who behave, actors are people who behave like there's nobody else there when they're doing what they're doing and everything they do. They're always on game. Narcissists are always on game. Get the skill right, get it precise. But it's for what? It's wrong. Get it absolutely right for the wrong thing. And I don't always have that grace. My skills are always pissed up the wall. But I try. I mean, or even the sort of words I sometimes choose to use. But the David Icke, who famously, he was a member of the Green Party, but he left then. And he always says that seems to come up with some vague allusion to a spiritual experience or visitation by a being or something like that. And he famously believes in aliens. And he announced that he was the son of God on the Terry Wogan show. The Wogan show, early 90s, was it? Or 89 or something like 90. And then he came out sort of smelling of roses, having a go at Terry Wogan. There's a video of that where he seems to come off better. But he never once says, I was suffering from mental illness. And he never once says, yes, I sounded stupid. That's a very grandiose... I mean, whatever you can say about mental illness isn't real. Mental illness is a result of the psychiatric establishment, which is by definition evil. There is something going on with the brain again. I mean, when people are behaving in that way, and not to account for it in yourself, and you listen to his humour, I mean, he's a very watchable person in some ways, I have to admit. that it's always wooden, it's never self-deprecating, it's usually having a go at somebody else if you watch him and listen to what he's saying. And that's very shitty, really, isn't it? I mean, it's not a nice way to think and behave around people. Always acting the victim in this really wooden way. Yeah, take the piss, mate. Well, what do you think they're going to do? And I appreciate unilateral, independent thinking. I mean, he has that in spades, but it's always the motives behind it. And a lot of it probably is materialistic and self-aggrandizing. And there's very skewed logic sometimes. And psychosis is associated with narcissism. Or if you want to call it schizophrenia, I mean, or comorbid schizophrenia, or something else officially. People who can't get narcissistic supply especially will go psychotic. And on the matter of aliens, well, I was having a conversation with someone here. Where is here? Some of the people who've been skimmed from life and don't fit in. I live in a homeless centre at the moment. It's a nice place in the scheme of things. And some intelligent people, possibly narcissistic themselves. And he was talking to me about aliens. You know, aliens are probably going to be like us. They're going to have hands. Because we have hands. And I have some reservations about some of that. But Star Trek and Star Wars in some ways have got it quite right, because, you know, we are a powerful being. We have weaponry. True, we were flying aeroplanes that had made out of paper not so long ago, but we can advance and advance further. Some people say if the Great War hadn't happened, a lot of intelligent people wouldn't have been killed. But he was also saying if we were taken over by aliens, we'd know about it. And you can talk about covert control and all that malarkey, but I mean, in our history of colonisation, if somebody's taken you over, you tend to know about it, don't you? And maybe they've adapted that. It's underhand too, it's lying too. That's that video. My cousin, virtue signals. She's a lawyer, a real lawyer. Interesting, David Icke was saying, lawyers destroy justice, doctors destroy medicine, education destroys knowledge. And this is true. We get skimmed off, the cream gets skimmed off, and then all we can do is try and mitigate that, reconstitute the cream, put the skimmings back on the top, try and make the most of ourselves in this society. And lawyers, yes, just virtue signalling. Someone who you know has never really cared about anybody else, like when you were younger, has always demonstrated unfairness, and yet they're the one, partly because they've gone to public school, who manages and care about and have great skill in how they make things look. And all her immediate family is the same. Father didn't survive, by the way. We're talking virtue signalling about women's rights. So she could be riding roughshod over men who are trying to get access to their children. Never mind the daughter's rights, or the son's rights as well, and never mind the father's rights. She probably thinks her dad's wonderful, and yet he died in a car crash, probably because he neglected himself, probably because he was addicted to several things, because he was a narcissist. And albeit wealthy, and women in mining need representation, women in nuclear. We've done so many things to try, and Brunel University has bursaries for women in engineering. I can remember booklets at sixth form over 20 years ago, and they were there before then, trying to a very sexist environment towards men and boys anyway, by the way. The science department, mainly women, or at least half women as well, and the most disparaging, opinionated women. where I live in Southport. Probably doesn't identify them, nobody cares. The thing, if I wasn't having an emotional flashback and forgetting everything I was going to say, or something. Yes, bursaries of 20 grand. The Justice for Men and Boys Party has brought this up a number of times. They probably don't even spend that money because it still doesn't attract women to the course. They don't want to do that profession. And it was still blamed. It's badly represented. I'm just living in an echo chamber amongst MRAs, but I'm not talking an echo chamber amongst people in general, or the official middle class state's opinion, the politicians in this country, opposition or government, and women in mining. So the bedrock of our industry and our economy was because of women who crawled through coal mines and got all those terrible diseases and risked their lives and had things fall on top of them and crush them. Just as it is in India today, because they haven't got the safety regulations, and in third world countries, developing countries, our geography teacher told us over 20 years ago. Can we call it the third world? Don't know. He was very blasé about gay rights. I liked him, but we were all bisexual, apparently. But even in a boys' school,